Hello, boils and ghouls and other Crypt Keeper style puns. I'm Scarin.
And I'm Witchell.
Oh, I like that one. That was way better. Nice. I like that one. So, for anybody who is new to this channel, or at least has not been here for an entire year, welcome to Thorgy-ween, our annual month-long celebration of everything spooky and scary from the world of pop culture, which means that we are now going to start the post-Shriek-Out reaction 31 days of horror movie reviews, all back to back to back, non-stop, going throughout the entire month. Always kind of hope that if I say that with enough enthusiasm and adrenaline, that it will get me through the month, but oh, this is going to be a task. This is going to be a big undertaking. So let's go ahead and let's start. Now, just so everybody out there know, typically we have a theme for every single one of our weeks after the first week. The first week is just kind of a random grab bag. It's stuff that we've always wanted to see. It's stuff that people have been requesting. It's stuff that is currently in the news or people are talking about. It's kind of just a random selection of stuff here in the first week, but after this, every single week is going to have a theme. So, for this first week, as I said, there's some things that I've always wanted to watch. There have been some things on my checklist that I've been meaning to mark off, and one of the big ones is Rosemary's Baby. And this is a movie that, I'm not kidding you guys, I've literally owned the DVD for this for over a decade now. I can remember the Borders bookstore where I bought the DVD on Halloween night because I was like, well, I need something spooky to watch tonight. Oh, Rosemary's Baby, I've never seen this before. And that continued to be true for over a decade as it just sat there and I never watched it. I think I got home and watch Simpsons Halloween specials that night. It's like, well, that was worth going out for. Now I'm just going to eat Snickers and watch Homer Simpson. So yeah, this thing just sat on my DVD collection shelf for like over a decade. And the sad thing is, it still didn't end up getting used. Because so many of my old DVDs now look like crap when I put them up in our big 4K TV. And this is currently streaming on Amazon Prime. So I was like, sorry DVD, you're never going to get used. So what this film is about is it is about this woman who she is married to this young, struggling actor. And he is so struggling that one of the first things that you see in this film is him in a Yamaha bike commercial. Which, by the way, if you can get a commercial gig, good for you, man. When I say he's struggling so much he's in a commercial, that is not putting down people who act in commercials. That is me just saying, like, he wants to be bigger than this.
Yeah.
And because you see him
like they mentioned like he was in plays, but it's like he wants to be like a movie star, like Hollywood, all that.
Yeah, and this movie opens up, one of the first things that you see after they start moving into this new house, she sits down and
New apartment,
yes. Which is very important actually for what's coming up. She moves into this apartment with him, and one of the first things that you see is she sits down and watches this whole Yamaha bike commercial. He is so serious and so professional and so just like, oh yes, just this very charming, elegant man. And when they're talking about him being an actor, it's always this high profession. I did not even realize until halfway through this film, he's the guy in the Yamaha bike commercial. I literally thought that this was a product placement. Like, because they just stopped and watched a Yamaha bike commercial. And I was like, all right, wow.
No.
I didn't think the product placement was that bad back in the 60s, but all right, sure, I guess it was. I always thought that they just had the actors come out before the movie and just like, when I want to smoke, I go from menthol cigarettes. Like, that's what they used to do, so I was shocked to see them just stop for an entire Yamaha commercial in here. Because in the commercial, he's like, wow, I can get a Yamaha bike right now. But then you see him, man, he's just this very well-spoken, just this very intelligent senior individual. So, yeah, I didn't even realize that was him until halfway through this movie. So, when it got to that point, and I finally had that realization, I went, oh, okay. When you say that, like, he's an actor, you mean he wants to be here, and he's, like, still working class. He's still taking whatever gigs he can get.
Exactly.
Yeah, because he's moving into an apartment that's, like, across the street from Central Park. It's on the Upper West Side, which is apparently where like 90% of horror movies took place in the 60s and 70s and 80s. If you set your horror film in New York in the 60s, 70s, or 80s, you had that same goddamn apartment overlooking Central Park.
Well, to be fair, New York was pretty much a very big horror scene in real life during the 60s, 70s, and 80s, so...
Oh, yeah. If you set your movie in New York in the 60s, 70s, or 80s, it was either a horror film, or it was a thriller, or it was a crime film. Like, even if your film wasn't that, crime was going to play a part in it. That was going to be a part of the story. So they move into this apartment. I seriously, like, I kept looking at that thing just like, is like the fucking Ghostbusters, is that like right next door to them? Because I remember when we lived up on 105th Street, whenever we would go to Central Park and walk through there, I would just be like going, that's where that movie happens, that's where that movie happens, that's where that movie happens. So now I got a new one to add to that checklist. I wish we did still kind of live there so I could like match up mentally where she is when she looks out over the park. Was like, okay, what apartment was that probably there? Okay. Which that's a very interesting thing in this film is that this is one of the few New York films I've seen where they show settings, one of the few New York films I've seen from the 60s or 70s that shows parts of New York that are recognizable, but they're not just Times Square. Because you always get Times Square.
Yeah.
But there's a moment where she goes to like Rockefeller Center. And we know what Rockefeller Center looks like now. And this is one of the first times I've ever looked at that particular part of New York from like 4 decades ago. Or 5 decades ago at this point. And yeah, I look at it and just go, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting. It's literally like when your parents drive you through their old neighborhood and they're just like, that used to all be orange fields out there. It was kind of like the first time I've ever been able to do that with New York. It's kind of cool. But that's neither here nor there. So she moves into this new apartment and they decide that they want to have a kid. And she gets these new neighbors that are interesting.
Like, they're basically the nosy old people.
They are literally the next door sitcom characters.
Yeah.
They're literally the next door. Abner, look at what the Munsters are doing across the street. That's nice, Janet. Like, that's what they are. She, like, okay, we'll get into them in a second. Because I gotta save, like, the reveal for that. Because I want to get into those characters. So they decide to have this baby, and the next door neighbors are all for it. And then one night, when she's about to have sex with her husband, she eats this thing, causes her to pass out.
Like mousse, like the next door neighbors gave them mousse.
Yeah, gave them like this chocolate mousse, and she was like, this doesn't taste good. And he's like, of course it tastes fine. Mine tastes fine. Look at that, it'll taste just fine in there. He goes, no, there's an aftertaste to it. Fine, what, there's that? Like, he starts being this total asshole out of nowhere. And he goes, fine, okay, I'll eat it. But she, like, when he isn't looking, pours half of it out. So she then all of a sudden starts collapsing, but she's in a half daze because she didn't eat the whole thing. It's obvious that thing is drugged, like, immediately.
Yes.
And she then starts having these weird flashbacks to being on a boat. And I kind of wanted more of this film to go into that because it was very clear those flashbacks were important. But I never really got a sense of why those particular emotions were important.
Like one of her neighbors, like the lady that she met in the laundry, the basement. Like she said, "Oh, my husband, she is in the Navy. He's out to sea."
That's what that was all about?
I think so.
Really? Okay.
I don't know.
Because they were like on a cruise there. Like they're all in swimsuits and stuff. So I didn't think it was quite that, but maybe that ties into this.
I think like if like I don't know if I want to get into spoilers.
We'll tell. Okay, because here's the thing. This is a 50-year-old movie. We'll avoid some spoilers, like specifically how the film ends, but we're gonna get into some theorizing about this movie. We're gonna discuss some finer points in here that we don't normally go into on the post Geek Out reactions, but we will talk about exactly how this ends at the end. But if you haven't seen it yet, you're good for now. But yeah, she then starts having these weird visions, like they're very clearly memories of being out at sea, but they get kind of odd at times. Like all of a sudden, like people are naked and just standing around. It makes you go like, okay, I think you might have been like some weird like 1960s like hippie or celebrity sex thing going on there. That's kind of the sense that I got from it. But then she goes down to this basement and it is a torture dungeon and she gets strapped down. And then you see Satan appear, which you don't actually see him. You just see like
the outline or like the hand
furry
or the
gloved
horns,
hands coming out. You see like horns.
Or like the eyes.
The eyes you get a focus on. But yeah, so you never see like the entirety of it.
You see like a cult.
There's a cult of people and one of them is the neighbors. And it's a cult of like old people. Yeah. Which I'm going to get into that in a second, but I will just say part of me liked that and part of me didn't like that. But I'll get into the specifics of that in a moment. But basically, she ends up getting impregnated by the devil. And the rest of this film it actually does a really good job of making you wonder, was that real or wasn't? Which one of the great things in this is that she wakes up halfway through and goes, this is no dream, this is real, and then she gets knocked out again. I actually really enjoy that moment. I think it's a very good freaky moment in there. But the next day after, everything seems to be back normal, everything seems fine, but like she wakes up and she's topless and she turns, she's got scars on her side. This movie lets you know something happened, but then it goes on for so long of just being a super slow burn that it does kind of make you start questioning, did it actually happen?
Yeah, that's what I really like about this movie. Is like it's very subtle. So like, is this supposed to happen, or did that actually happen? You
and the crazy
question
thing
yourself
is,
a lot.
we saw it.
Yeah.
We saw it happen, but the film questions her so much that it makes you start questioning it. And I mean, I know how this film ends. The ending of this movie is famous. So I knew what happened at the end of this thing. But even then, I still had to like stop and take myself out of the knowledge that I had of this film and go, shoot, if I did not know that's how this thing was going to end, I would be questioning this right now because everyone else in here is questioning this so much. But I think that's the point of this film because the entire point of this film is that she's pregnant and she is going through, and she's having a lot of concerns about this. Yeah. Especially because her pregnancy is not going the way that most people's pregnancies go. But everyone is just like, no, you silly woman, you know, that's not how this is. You need to listen to your doctor, and you need to listen to your husband, you need to listen to your neighbors, and listen to all
Yeah, like the neighbors always like giving her like these special drinks and vitamins.
Which awful. I got nauseous looking at those things. I got sick just looking.
I don't know, there's a lot of like protein shakes and vitamin juice that looks a lot like those.
But these things look like they had frog eggs in there, like, because it's just like white milk and then just little tiny black specks all throughout it. It's almost like somewhere in between just like a collection of tadpole eggs, and which, man, that's my southern side coming out. It's just a collection of tadpole eggs and cookies and cream, ice cream that's been melted. It's like between those two. So there are moments where she's dumping that thing out where they're not supposed to know she's dumping it out, and God. And there'd be moments where they put like mint in it. I'm okay with mint in chocolate, but mint in like a milky thing, like mint all by itself, like add that into like this weird goopy thing. That was the worst part of this entire film. Oh. I love that I just described this absolute nightmare for this woman and just like, oh yeah, but that looked icky. It's like those jokes about the husband in like the like next to their wife when they're giving birth, and they're just like, oh, I got a splinter in my finger. And she's like, what the? This guy knows what. She's going through this horrible nightmare. Like, I don't want to drink that. Anyway, we talked way too long about that mystery drink. But yeah, the entire point of this film is that it is supposed to be a film that speaks to women out there, especially in the 60s when the women's liberation movement was starting to happen and women were starting to be given way more of a voice. And it's all of society and all of your neighbors and everyone who you can trust still turn to you and just be like, you don't know what you're just imagining this. Trust me, just listen to everyone else. You silly woman. Like, that's basically what the subtext of this film is like. You silly woman, you don't know what you're talking about. When no, she's the only one who does know what she's talking about.
It's like, and then there was like that scene with the baby shower with like all her friends like gathering around. It's like, this is not good. This is not normal. Go see another doctor.
That was great. And also, I mean, speaking about the theme of this film, you know, it's these older couples all around her. It's her husband, it's her male doctor in there telling her, you don't know what you're talking about. She invites all of her female friends around and they're like, no, husband, get the fuck out right now. Yeah. What is actually wrong with you? Tell us, we need to understand this. This is not good. Listen, go and see these people out there.
Like, even, like, there was, like, a scene, like, where, like, she went to see her original doctor.
I was about to bring that up.
Yeah.
Man, that's a great moment in here. Okay, now we're going to start getting into a little bit more of the deeper spoilers in here. We're still not going to spoil the whole thing in here, but, yeah, that is an amazing moment there, because they kept telling her, go back, see your old doctor. See your original doctor. Do not see the doctor you're going to right now, which, I gotta say, another thing about this film is that even when you know that these people are evil and they're in this cult that worships Satan, they're so charming and positive and just relatable, normal-looking people that you kind of buy it, because when she goes to the doctor, the new one that she has to go and start seeing, the one who's in this cult, he's just like, don't read books. Don't read books. And don't listen to your friends, because nobody's pregnancy is the same. Listen, just trust me. He's being so charismatic and charming about this. You're just like, oh, he's on her side. Like, I didn't even fully realize until after that scene, oh, yeah, he's one of the bad guys in this eye. Because, yeah, everybody's just so charming in this thing. But that's the point of it.
Yeah, that's how they lure you in.
But yeah, she goes back to see her original doctor, which is played by Charles Grodin. And this is maybe the earliest thing I've ever seen Charles Grodin in. This might be like one of his very first roles. But she goes to see him. I think that's who that was.
Unless you're talking about the landlord, Hutch?
No, that wasn't Charles. That wasn't him.
All right.
Although that needs to come back up in a second. But she goes back to see him, and this is the point in which she's figured out these people are witches. They've done something to me. Something is going wrong in here.
Well, I don't think she understands that they're witches yet, but she knows.
She had the book. And
she did. She did.
She was full on there, because I remember his line. Like, he was writing all this down. I was like, oh, he's going to think that she's crazy. And then he goes, I don't believe in witchcraft, but there are crazy people out there. So, yeah, you stay here. You just wait until you... It's like, oh, my God, someone finally trusts her. And then he comes in, he opens the door, and then the other, like, evil doctor and her husband come in, and he just sold her out immediately. He, again, was just like, no, you can absolutely trust me. Pff, silly woman, she's hysterical. We need to get her, like, under control right now. Yeah, that is absolutely what that scene is about, and holy crap, that one was effective. I love that moment in there. That is that moment where your stomach just sinks in that moment. But you mentioned The Landlord in there. This is another film in which there are many times where you look at it and just go, okay, this person can help. This person can help. And then they're gone. They're taken out. And yeah, basically what she ends up discovering is that all the people who live in that apartment, they're witches. And they are trying to use Rosemary to bring about the Antichrist. They're trying to get Satan to impregnate her, which... Man, when you think about like some of the most famous Antichrist films out there, Damien is the one that always comes to mind, but I love this one so much more than The Omen, because this whole film is, no, what's it like to be the parent of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this film has a great message behind it, at least a great theme with it too, about how it was really capturing like the women's liberation movement at the time of women being given a voice, when everyone around them was like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Because yeah, this entire film, it has so many people doing that it even makes you, the audience, kind of go, I don't know, maybe she is kind of crazy. I don't know, because the film is so leaning into that message. But this is when I get into some of my questions with the film, because I don't even really want to say problems, because I see how they're positives, but the neighbors are supposed to be witches, but they are just the most stereotypical New York. Oh, honey, come on, you just gotta listen to me and trust me. If we're gonna have you over for dinner, it's gonna be a great time. They're the most stereotypical, like, New York. I mean, you describe them as being like the sitcom neighbors. That's totally what they are. So there are moments where they're in the weird cult thing, and they're all standing around them naked. It's like, don't worry, she's gonna be out for hours. It's like, I get the idea of it's supposed to be like the everyday next door neighbor who you see all the time and you would never suspect them, and then it turns out they're you. I get that. But then there was moments where they're in the crazy cult meetings and she starts talking, and I just look at it and go, well, there's all the tension gone. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Maybe that is just me. You did kind of look at me like, what?
No, I can understand your point, but it didn't really distract me that much, to be honest.
Okay, yeah, it distracted me a little bit, but I still understand what they were going for with it. Which, by the way, they had, before they really get introduced, before that, the first person that she meets in the building is this woman who was living with them.
Yeah.
And she ends up just planting so many seeds for what's coming in the rest of the film. And that's a great shot, because it was one of those shots that's all one take, and I didn't even realize it until like halfway through the shot. But she ends up killing herself. And yeah, you think about so many things that she said and just go back to them. And I didn't even think about it, but yeah, you mentioned that she had a husband who was in the Navy. And you get those flashbacks when she's drugged of her just being on a boat. So I'm thinking, oh shoot, is this like where maybe she ended up meeting the cult? Like maybe they all met out at sea? Maybe like she knew the Navy guy?
Maybe it's like, I kind of had this theory.
Okay.
Like, they said, like, obviously after, like, she gave birth, the cult was like, Satan chose you out of anyone to be the mother of his child.
It's such a, like, oh no, you should be happy to have this horrible thing happen.
It's like the Virgin Mary, except instead of giving birth to Jesus, you're giving birth to the Antichrist.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're basically, I mean, not to get, like, too... I don't want to, like, give everybody out there some anxiety or, like, you know, trigger warning on anything like this, but they're basically telling her, you should be happy that you got raped by a celebrity, is what they're telling her. That's basically what they're telling her. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it is so messed up.
Like, but here's my thing. It's like, I kind of felt like the lady that Rosemary talked to was originally going to be the one that...
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. But then she came along and Sam was like, no, I want her. Kill this lady off.
Oh, I thought it was that she killed herself because she realized what was happening. So she was like, I'm not going to give birth to the Antichrist, and she jumped out the window. That's what I thought, but oh man, that's an interesting other theory. Huh. I think both of those could absolutely work. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because, I mean, with the way that they phrase it at the end of the film, it does sound like that's what it could have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does absolutely sound like what it could have been. Interesting. Okay. But yeah, so this film, that's another thing that this film does well. It sets so many things up so well. Like that opening where the landlord is giving them the tour of the apartment and they just move a piece of furniture and go, oh, there's a closet back here. I never knew about that. Instantly, you were just looking at that thing going, what's the closet for? What's that going to be about? Where's that coming? Yeah, it is a great setup there, that entire tour scene. But going into a few like smaller complaints about this, this is a well-shot film, but as soon as the film was over with, we started talking about it, and I said, well, actually, no, you said it to me first. I was thinking it, but I was like, I don't want to say it. And then you just said, I kind of wish they would remake this film. And I just went, oh, thank God. Because this is one of those classics, and you never want to be that person who comes in and says, oh, I kind of want them to remake this. I had that thought throughout this entire film for a few reasons. And one was that this film, it is well shot, but there's a lot of shots in here where they're trying to get like a really creepy angle on something, but they have to maneuver a giant-ass 1960s camera around a tiny, real New York apartment. I was like, you know what, if you had like actual like smaller cameras like we have now, you could actually get better shots in here. And also, so many times in here when it's supposed to be a big spooky moment, they start playing this funky jazz music in there. And I was like, well, if you wanted to scare white people in the 60s, yeah, just put on jazz music would do it. I mean, I guess that's what they were trying to do here, but I just kept looking at that just like, well, that does not hold up at all. There are moments in the soundtrack that's great, but whenever they get into the funky jazz music for a scary scene, yeah, that does not hold up. That does not stick around that well. Also, another problem with this film is that, let's go ahead and address it. This is directed by Roman Polanski, so no matter how good it is, it's problematic. It is super problematic to like admit that you like a film by this director. So there was like this thought that I just have. I really actually wish someone would remake this, and I would actually love to see them give this off to like a woman writer and a woman director, because the entire point of this film is it's supposed to be like what it's like to be a woman when all of society is telling you that you're wrong and that you're crazy and that you're hysterical. And I mean, you look around today, it's not like that's changed. I mean, it's better than in the 60s.
It's different.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's better or worse.
But yeah, exactly. It's different today. So yeah, I would love to see like female director and writer get their hands on this property and really kind of tell it with that perspective in mind, with their personal experiences in there.
The thing is with a lot of remakes, they always like take away the suspension. And I don't want that to happen to the Rosemary Babies remake, because this whole movie is nothing but suspension. Yeah. So if you take away like anything, subtlety, any of the subtlety, like put more emphasis on the small things, I feel like it would ruin it. So basically, all I want is a shot-for-shot remake, but with better cameras and a better soundtrack.
Kind of, because I mean, again, like this is an insanely well-made film. But okay, let's go ahead and get to the actual ending of this thing. The actual ending of this thing, which we were talking about how, like, yeah, because of the giant-ass cameras, you can't get the best angles in here. She goes into the neighbor's apartment, and she's got a knife in there, and she is, like, slowly creeping around. She's opening up doors to look in there. And it's a great tracking shot where they're following her behind to look at where she's looking. But, like, there's moments where she's trying to peek in a room, and the camera really should, like, swing all the way behind her so you can see into the room. But the camera can't because it would slam into the wall. So it's like, all right, just kind of like, we're kind of like just peering over her shoulder there. But yeah, it's still good even despite the technical limitations on it. But then she goes in this room and it's just every character throughout the rest of the film except for Charles Grodin in there. Which, again, that's the thing that just really hits home, that he wasn't even part of the cult. He was just, you know, a 1960s man who didn't want to trust a woman. Yeah, she goes in there and she's got a knife, and I love that it is a slow burn of just one by one people just like, what? Like, yeah, because everybody's having a party and just they don't notice that she's there until like halfway through someone finally screams out. And that's when they confront her. And this, man, the next door neighbor, the guy who's been the world traveler, when you first meet him, he's just like, oh, I've been everywhere. You name a place, I've been there. Just like this kind of old grandfather voice in there. He then comes in and just goes, your child is the child of the Dark Lord. Like just belting those lines out. Man, when he's talking about like praise Satan, like he is just like, just shaking the rafters with how hard he is screaming that. And I'd never seen this, but I had heard about the final scene, and I had heard people say that the final shot of this film is the baby's hand coming out of the cradle, and it's just some like weird monster hand coming out. You never see the baby in here. Like, I don't know why. I had heard from multiple people that's how this film ends, because we were like, oh, I guess we...
Is this like the Mandela effect or something? Like
the Mandela effect?
Mandela effect, yes.
I love that you had the Mandela effect for the Mandela effect right there. It might be that. It might be just like people have been told so many times that that's what the ending of this film is, that they just think that's what the end of this film is. Yeah, but no, the end of this film, you never see any of it. She doesn't even really comment on how the baby looks. She just comments on its eye. Yeah. It goes, it has its father's eyes. Yeah, and I love just seeing her like just have a collapse there in that moment.
Like, but I like that they didn't show the baby.
I agree with you on that. I really appreciate that. And I kept thinking, okay, well, I had heard from so many people that that's how it ends. We must have seen like a different version of this. We looked up online. They did actually film the baby in there, but apparently they showed it to test audiences, and it was so scary they took it out. So apparently there are scenes out there of the baby, but it never got released. And this was in the 1960s. When they didn't save this stuff for archive purposes, if there was a deleted scene, it was deleted from existence. They burned that motherfucker. Yeah, they just took that thing out back and just like shredded the footage back then. So yeah, somebody out there in a test audience did actually see footage of Rosemary's Baby and what it actually looked like. But man, it's weird to think you're the only people who ever saw that thing. You're the only people who got freaked out by that thing. So yeah, I love how this thing ends, because it ends on just such a cold note. Because she is just having this collapse, and it's not like the cult is going to turn on her. No,
No, it's like they literally...
Satan likes you. We like Satan. Yeah.
No, it's like like the leader goes up to her and says, you don't have to join us, but please just be a mother to your baby. And that's pretty much what got her. It's like she wanted a baby so badly, and her baby just happens to be the spawn of Satan. Yeah,
and she just can't. What? Well, and then the husband just comes out and is like, yeah, it's gonna be okay. Like, listen, we can always have another normal kid. Like, it doesn't.
And she spits in his face, and he deserved it.
Yes. Fuck that guy. That guy is awful. He is just that perfect. Again, you're talking about how like all the people in here who are members of this, they try to be so charming. That's the one guy, because you're living with him, you see that change between charming and asshole. Like, you see him just going back and forth between that. So like, yeah, he gets what you've been wanting him to get this entire film. But at the end of the thing,
like he literally like made a deal with the devil. So like
he could become a star, and not even like he didn't even give anything of himself up. He gave his wife up like against her will. Yeah, like he didn't get anything done to him.
No.
Yeah, he gets a better career out of this whole thing.
Say, I'm not the one getting pregnant. Who cares?
Absolutely. But then at the end of this, man, the most chilling thing at the end of this is when this one of the old like the old New Yorkers in there just shaking this ground, and the baby is crying, and she's just shaking that thing. And then Rosemary gets up and is like, "You're shaking it too hard." And then she's just like, "Don't tell me how to take care of Satan." And then the leader of the cult is just like, "Let her take care of her child." And then it just ends with her like slowly rocking the cradle.
Like an actual baby, you know, like...
And she's just got this look on her face like, "This is my life now."
Yeah.
Man, it is rough.
It's like, I don't know, part of me felt like it was like her maternal instincts taking over, like...
I mean, she can't abandon the thing she carried for 9 months. I mean, she's got, like, that attachment to it. It's even knowing what she knows.
Yeah, I mean, like, she even said she didn't want an abortion.
Yeah.
She wanted a baby.
Which is crazy that in the 1960s that was a scene in a movie. That is huge.
Or, like, they even mentioned it.
Exactly. Like, that was a conversation that happened in the film. Yeah, this film was insanely ahead of its time with like the discussions and the debates that was raising in there. So
but that's kind of another thing. Like I feel like if this was remade today, like they would have told her to get an abortion anyhow.
Well, no, I think it would still be a debate in there. I think it would still absolutely be a debate.
So,
it just wouldn't be like it was in this film.
Yeah, I mean, like now that I think about it, abortion is still like a very big issue today.
Absolutely. But I mean, even then, like, even if it was not still such a controversial issue, there would still be like a scene of like, you know, maybe one of her friends tells her to do that, and she would say like, "I don't want that," and then like there'd be a discussion that would happen there. I think it would be a larger part of the film,
right?
Then, but yeah, man, this thing, I think this film was great. I don't know if we're gonna actually do ratings for Thor.
I don't know either. It's
not really important to do ratings.
It's like. That kind of made me think about what I would have done if I were in Rosemary's situation. First off, I would get a divorce.
You'd be right to do it.
Secondly, like, Rosemary mentioned that she was, like, Catholic, but she didn't practice it that much, so I'm wondering what would happen if she baptized Satan.
Oh!
Like, what...
There's an interesting sequel in here.
Like, actually, like, go full Catholic in order to make sure, like, that her kid doesn't become Satan.
Honestly, I was joking, but that would be an interesting film about, like, Rosemary trying to escape the cult with her child and, like, what she ends up trying to do.
Yeah.
With that. Yeah, that would be interesting in there. Okay. Interesting. But yeah, thank you very much. That was our very first episode of Thor You Win. We got 30 more of these to go. And remember, the rest of this week, it's kind of just the random grab bag, but this was not done on purpose. It just kind of worked out this way. We got 3 good ones this week and 3 bad ones. So we're going to be alternating. Today was a good one. Tomorrow is a bad one. So come back for that. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Oh, and happy Halloween. I got to remember to end all these episodes like that. Bye, everybody.
Bye.